Ready to start the fourth proof? The first thing I'm going to do is mention that I think this is supposed to be an O. It was just very awkwardly drawn in the middle of the shape, so I'm going to draw it on the top. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name these angles with their three letters. So angle 1 here, I'm going to call it OMJ, and I'm going to rewrite this statement that angle OMJ is congruent to angle 2 here is OMK. Notice I am using the angle symbols. I'm not leaving it without the symbol. It does not mean anything if I do not use the symbol. I'm only choosing to do this so that you get the practice of seeing what this looks like to name an angle with 3 points. If you prefer, you can leave the numbers in the proof. If you prefer, you can add numbers to a proof, but I am using this so you can get practice seeing the names of the angles. Angle 3 would be named OJM with the angle symbol, and that would be congruent to OKM. As with the other proofs, I'm going to encourage you, please do not write while you are watching this video. You can write after you have done watching the video. If you are writing while you are watching the video, my assumption is that you will not benefit from it. You will only be copying and not learn. The goal of this proof is to prove that M is the midpoint of JK. So this point down here is in the middle of the line on the bottom. I am going to start by proving that the triangles are congruent to each other. Then I will be able to, once I say that they are congruent, show that 2 pieces are the same through CPCTC. And I will be able to end with my statement that M is the midpoint if I have chosen appropriate pieces through CPCTC. I will start with my congruent statements. The first one is that angle OMJ is the same as angle OMK. I will mark this with a single mark. Many people would be inclined to put a box down here because they think it's a 90-degree angle, but there is nothing here saying that this is perpendicular, so I cannot make an assumption that it is 90 because it looks like it is 90. So I should use an arc rather than a box because I do not know if it is 90 degrees. Notice I did not draw it square, I drew it as an arc. The next angle is OJM, which will be congruent to OKM. This was given to us as well. I'm going to use a different number of arcs because it is not congruent to the first set of angles, but they are only congruent to each other. So far I have 2 sets of angles. I need 1 more piece in order to prove the triangles are congruent. And once again, these share a side. So OM is the same as itself. This is the reflexive property. At this point, I have enough to prove that the triangles are congruent through angle, angle, side. So I'm going to say that the 2 triangles are exactly the same as each other in size and shape. I put this one in order of triangle OMJ. And now I'm going to have to put them in the same order. OMJ is going to go with OMK. This was angle, angle, side. The first angle that I got, the 2 blue angles here, I put in step 1 of my proof. The second angles, J and K, were in step 2 of the proof, and then the side was in step 3. I did not forget to put any of the steps in my proof, but I have actually written them all down. Now that the triangles are the same, I can say that the pieces are the same using CPCTC. Whenever I'm at this step, I need to look at what my goal is so that I choose pieces that are helpful to me. The goal of this proof is to show that M is halfway or exactly in the middle of J and K. If M is in the middle, then the 2 sides would have to be the same. Many people would say that they are going to say that these are congruent by the definition of the midpoint, but at this point, there's nothing in your proof stating that M is the midpoint. That's your goal at the end. You should not try to use a midpoint to prove that something is the midpoint. We need something else, which will be CPCTC, in order to have a statement that M is the midpoint make any sense. So at this point, I can say that Jm is the same as Mk, not because it's a midpoint, because I do not know this yet, but rather because the triangles are the same, therefore the pieces should be the same as well. Now that I have stated that the pieces are the same, then it makes sense to end with my statement that M is in the middle of J and K because the two pieces are the same. If the two pieces are the same, that means that M is in the middle. I have shown the pieces are the same by CP/CTC. Now I can say that M is in the middle by definition of midpoint.